Canada is preparing to host part of the biggest sporting event on the planet, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Toronto will stage 6 matches, including the nation's first-ever Men's World Cup game on June 12, 2026, a date still subject to FIFA updates. Vancouver will host 7 matches at BC Place, placing the city at the center of global attention. But here's the real question. Will this tournament become a diplomatic bridge, showcasing Canada's soft power to the world? Or will it be overshadowed by Trump Tariffs 2025, as new trade wars reshape the relationship between neighbors across North America? This is more than soccer. It's about whether sport can rise above politics and whether Canada can turn a month of matches into a lasting legacy of diplomacy. The stage is set. Which story will define Canada's World Cup? What Canada actually hosts? Canada is not hosting the entire 2026 World Cup, but its 2 cities play a critical role. In Vancouver, BC Place Stadium will welcome fans from around the globe, staging 7 matches under its iconic roof. Across the country in Toronto, BMO Field will host 6 matches, including the historic first Men's World Cup game ever played on Canadian soil. Geography makes these venues more than just sports arenas. Vancouver sits in the heart of Cascadia, tied closely to Seattle and the U.S. Pacific Northwest, creating natural cross-border links. Toronto anchors the Great Lakes region, serving as a gateway to the U.S. Midwest and a hub for North American trade and culture. These connections mean every goal, every cheer, and every gathering extends beyond the stadium walls. It's not just about soccer matches. It's about how Canadian host cities can use this moment to deepen ties with their American neighbors, city to city, community to community. And that is where the seeds of diplomacy may quietly take root. Sports diplomacy, Canada's playbook. Sports diplomacy is the idea that games and tournaments can accomplish what traditional politics often cannot. It uses the universal language of sport to build trust, open conversations, and project a country's image on the world stage. For Canada, the 2026 World Cup is not only about hosting matches, it is about hosting relationships. Imagine athletes serving as unofficial ambassadors, speaking to fans and media far beyond the stadium. Picture trade and tourism missions scheduled alongside match days, allowing Canadian businesses to showcase innovation while global visitors are already paying attention. Think of cultural showcases, from Indigenous performances to Canadian art and food, creating a deeper sense of identity for guests from every continent. Earl Cochrane, writing for The Hub, argued that Canada must see this World Cup as a tool of soft power, not just a sporting festival. If Canada builds a clear playbook, one that blends sport, culture, and commerce, the event could leave a legacy long after the final whistle. That legacy would not be measured only in goals scored, but in stronger diplomatic ties and an enhanced global reputation. In that sense, the pitch becomes more than a field of play. It becomes a stage for Canada's diplomatic future. The Cascadia template. People-to-people ties. Cascadia is more than a geographic region. It is a community that stretches from Vancouver to Seattle, built on shared culture, commerce, and history. The USC Center on Public Diplomacy notes that this cross-border region has long served as a model of cooperation beyond formal politics. In the context of World Cup 2026, Cascadia offers a unique stage for people-to-people diplomacy. Thousands of volunteers will welcome visitors, not only serving as guides, but as cultural ambassadors. Fan festivals and public viewing events will bring together locals and travelers, creating friendships that outlast the tournament. Community exchanges, from schools to local clubs, can strengthen the bonds between Canadian and American neighbors. These grassroots connections may prove just as powerful as speeches or treaties because they build trust at the human level. For Canada, showcasing Cascadia's spirit of cooperation is a reminder that diplomacy is not only written in government halls. Sometimes it is lived on city streets, in stadiums, and in the friendships formed during moments of celebration. Tariffs and USMCA, Constraint and Escape Hatch. When we talk about Trump Tariffs 2025, the headlines can sound overwhelming. The U.S. has placed tariffs of up to 35% on Canadian goods that do not meet the strict rules of the USMCA trade agreement. Steel and aluminum products, once limited to raw materials, now face duties even when shipped as finished goods. For Canadian exporters, that means higher costs, tighter margins, and growing uncertainty about what markets remain open. But here's the good news. Most trade between Canada and the United States still moves duty-free. If a product meets the requirements of USMCA, it crosses the border without extra tariffs. This is the escape hatch built into the agreement, allowing both sides to keep commerce flowing despite the political rhetoric. That's why the 2026 USMCA joint review becomes such a critical test. Every 6 years, the three partners must sit down and decide whether to continue or renegotiate the deal. By the time the World Cup kicks off, leaders will already be preparing for that review. The question is whether the goodwill generated by hosting global matches can soften the tone of that conversation. If fans are moving easily across borders, if cities are collaborating on logistics, and if Canada showcases itself as a reliable partner, those images may matter at the negotiating table. Trade policy is complex, but diplomacy often depends on trust built outside the boardroom. In that sense, the World Cup could become more than a tournament. It could serve as a reminder that cooperation, not confrontation, is still possible under the shadow of tariffs. Travel, friction, and safety. Entry, visa, air quality. For fans planning to attend World Cup 2026 in Canada, the excitement begins long before kickoff. But so do the practical challenges of travel. Official guidance from the Government of Canada makes it clear. Visitors need either a valid visa or an electronic travel authorization, known as an ETA. That process takes time, so applying early is essential, especially for older travelers who want peace of mind before booking flights and hotels. Beyond paperwork, safety and health are also front of mind. Both Toronto and Vancouver have faced growing risks from summer wildfires and the resulting air quality alerts. During past summers, smoky skies and health advisories reminded residents just how unpredictable the season can be. For international visitors, especially those over 55, these conditions are more than an inconvenience. They can directly affect comfort and well-being. Organizers are working on contingency plans, from air-filtered venues to clear communication systems in case of poor conditions. Taken together, these are not abstract concerns. They are real-world factors that shape whether the World Cup experience feels smooth or stressful. For Canada, handling entry and safety with clarity will not just protect fans. It will reinforce the country's reputation as a capable and welcoming host on the global stage. 3 diplomatic wins Canada could secure. The World Cup is about goals and trophies, but for Canada, it can also deliver lasting diplomatic victories. The first win is city-to-city diplomacy. Vancouver's natural ties with Seattle and the broader Pacific Northwest create chances for new agreements on transit, tourism, and cultural exchange. Toronto, as a hub of the Great Lakes region, can strengthen its connections with U.S. cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland, building a network that goes beyond federal politics. The second win lies in sectoral roundtables. By scheduling business and policy discussions around match weeks, Canada can spotlight its strengths in clean energy, agriculture, and technology. This positions the World Cup not just as a sports event, but as a magnet for trade and innovation. The third win is cultural exchange. From indigenous showcases to local tourism programs and volunteer initiatives, Canada can highlight its diversity and identity to the world. For fans and visitors, these experiences create memories that last longer than the final score. For diplomats and policymakers, they generate goodwill that can pay dividends in future negotiations. If Canada treats the tournament as a platform for these three wins, the legacy will extend far beyond the stadiums. It will be measured in relationships, trust, and influence that endure long after the games are over. Risks to the bridge narrative. Every opportunity comes with risks, and Canada's World Cup moment is no exception. On the political side, media outlets have already floated the phrase "Trade War World Cup," framing the tournament as a stage for tariff battles rather than unity. Commentary like this, especially from international press, can shift perception quickly and overshadow Canada's efforts at sports diplomacy. Then there are the logistical risks. Ticket prices, transportation costs, and housing shortages could frustrate fans and create headlines that focus on problems instead of possibilities. Add in the uncertainty of cross-border travel, and the bridge narrative can quickly turn into a story of friction. The best way to counter these risks is through transparency. Clear communication on pricing, visas, and fan services can ease concerns before they turn into criticism. Equally important is reminding audiences that under USMCA, most Canada-US trade remains duty-free. That fact alone helps soften the sharpest edges of tariff rhetoric. Handled well, these risks don't have to break the bridge. They can instead highlight Canada's ability to host confidently, manage challenges openly, and keep the focus on connection rather than conflict. 90 to 180-day watch list. The next 6 months will be critical in shaping Canada's World Cup story. One key milestone is volunteer intake, as thousands of applications are reviewed and training begins. How Canada manages this process will signal its readiness to welcome the world. Another marker is venue readiness. Both BC Place in Vancouver and BMO Field in Toronto are undergoing upgrades, and progress reports will show if timelines are on track. Visa and border throughput are also on the list. With fans traveling from dozens of countries, early testing of entry systems will reveal whether Canada can deliver a smooth experience. Finally, coordination with U.S. border services will be closely watched, especially given the volume of cross-border tourism expected during the tournament. For viewers, these checkpoints are worth following. As FIFA and host cities release updates, they will reveal whether Canada is on pace not only to stage matches, but also to deliver on its larger diplomatic promise. Stay tuned. The real story will unfold in the details. Canada's World Cup role is bigger than matches on the field. If the focus stays on people, volunteers, fans, and communities, then Canada can still score a diplomatic goal that politics alone might not achieve. Even as debates over trade and Trump Tariffs 2025 continue, the tournament offers a softer bridge across North America. It is a reminder that cooperation can still thrive, not only in boardrooms, but in stadiums and city streets. The real legacy will not be written on scoreboards, but in the trust and goodwill carried forward after the final whistle. Canada has the chance to prove that sport can connect where politics divides. And for audiences watching from around the world, that may be the most important victory of all. If you found this perspective valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join the conversation below. Do you think Canada can turn this World Cup into a true diplomatic bridge?